إنها أمريكية عرفت طريقها إلى الجنة. سناء اعتنقت الإسلام في صباها بعد أن كانت ديانتها مسيحية، لكنها كلما تعرفت إلى الإسلام كلما أدركت أنها كانت مسلمة بالفطرة منذ الصغر.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Sanaa. I was born a Christian to a very devout Christian family. I was the only daughter. And subhanAllah, I look back in retrospect through my life, and I see even when I was a young child, I was still Muslim. I remember one story of me and my brother. I guess I must have been about 5 years old or 6 years old. And he was outside, and he took a knife, and he started cutting the tree. And I became just hysterical. I was like, that's God's tree, and God's going to be angry with you. And later in life, when I did become Muslim, I remember someone telling me about Laylatul Qadr. And if we could see the spirit of the trees, everything would be in sujood during this night. And it just confirmed to me that when I was a small child, how I was Muslim at that time.
علمت ضيفتنا دائما بوجود إله، وتضرعت له أن يرشدها للطريق الحق، وأيقنت بثقة أنه لن يخذلها.
We've always been devout Christians in the family, practicing Christianity. Every time the church was open, we were at the church. Our mother raised us in the church. And being Southern Baptist people raise their children knowing the Bible, knowing about the religion, and practicing the religion. And that's how we were raised. Whenever I look back, we had, never missed church service unless there was just definitely illness in the family. And knowing that, that was our place in life and the rules in following our life. Whenever I was younger, I don't know that I always knew there was a God, and I always knew that one day we would be back in front of God. However that was, I don't really know that I questioned it. I always realized that there was a God. And we've had, I think that for me, my first steps, the first time I ever saw a Muslim, well, I had seen Muslims before, but I never thought about them. I had finished my bachelor's degree and had transferred to a different university to do my master's. And my first day of school, I heard something outside the window. And whenever I got up and walked to the window to see what was happening, there was a man outside, and he started making the adhan for prayer. And I sat and I watched him. It was in January. And he had his sleeves rolled up and his pants legs rolled up. And it was cold. It was cold. It was January. This was Oklahoma. And I thought to myself, my God, he's got to be cold out there. And then all of these other people started coming. And they started lining up behind him. And there was just line after line of people. And when I watched them, I thought to myself, I think they worship their God in the right way. They're worshiping God, And so I went and I sat back down at my seat. And as I sat at my seat, I kept thinking, I wonder what was going through their mind. I would see them bend, I would see them get down on the ground, and I would think, what are they doing in each portion of their prayer? Well, one of these men came into my lab class, and I went and I walked up to him and I said, what were you doing out there? And he said, I was praying. I said, well, who are you praying to? He said, I was praying to Allah. I said, who's Allah? He said, Allah, the creator of the heavens and the earth, God, And I was like, okay. I think I was satisfied because I didn't want him to think I wanted to be a Muslim, because I didn't want to be a Muslim. When you think of where I came from and the Southern Baptist roots and the prejudice of the South and I just knew it was something different. But anyway, I thanked him for his information. I just went and sat down. As soon as I finished class, I went to the library, and I took a book on Islam. Well, I went home that evening, and I read all evening about Islam, and I came back the next day, and the book was sitting on my desk in the lab class, and he walked by, and he said, "What are you reading that book for?" And I said, "Why?" He said, "If you're going to read a book on Islam, read a good book, one that's written by a Muslim, not written by John Smith, or read one by Muhammad Abdullah, or something that you know that would be an accurate information and without bias." And I said, "Yeah, okay." Anyway, the next day, he brought some books to my cubicle, and I read them. And I still didn't want to be Muslim. You know, I was still adamant, but I was still so curious about what Islam was. I had that hunger for it. So I kept reading, and I kept reading. And I found a woman who worked there at the university who was a closet Muslim. She had accepted Islam, but because her husband was Christian, he would not allow her to practice Islam. He would beat her, actually, if he caught her praying. But when she found out I was learning about Islam, she started bringing me books, accurate books on Islam. And so me and her became good friends. Her name was Carol. And we became good friends. And I found out she lived just around the street from me. So we started walking every day after school, and we would talk about Islam. And the more I read about Islam, the more I realized I was already Muslim. I still did not want to become Muslim because I still had the Christian concept of belief is enough. If I just believe something, it's going to be enough for me. I don't have to practice it. I don't have to do whatever. But, of course, the more you learn about Islam, the more you realize that you are responsible for your actions. And actually, one of my friends was Catholic, and she's one of my roommates. And so she was going to fast Lent, which is a 40-day period of fasting for Roman Catholics. But their fasting is completely different. They don't give up food or they don't give up drink. They give up like one thing that they really love. Like to some people it's smoking. They don't smoke for a month. To some people it's a piece of chocolate. So, you know. But so anyway, during that time I said, okay, I'll give up Diet Coke. I'll fast with you the Diet Coke thing. But I was still looking into Islam, and I think it was during that period of time I became more spiritual, and I really was looking for the roots to Islam. And I remember late one evening I had been studying for my finals exam, and I had been studying and studying. I had stacks and stacks of books that I needed to know that information. And so I was just, we call it cramming, where I just would just read and read and read. But about 1 o'clock that night, I realized I didn't comprehend anything because my heart is thinking about Islam, And that night, I said, okay, if I just go to bed and I try to get a good night's sleep, I know this, and I'll do good on my test. But when I went and I laid in my bed, I couldn't sleep. My conviction, my heart was thinking about Islam. How can I do it? What will I do? And subhanAllah, I made a little prayer. I just said, oh God, please give me some peace in my heart. This is overwhelming me. Please just give me some peace in my heart. And nothing happened. So I got on my knees by my bed, and I said, I just poured my heart. I said, God, show me the way to Jannah. I want to go to heaven. I make the promise now, if you show me the way to Jannah, if it's Christianity, I'll be a good Christian. If it's Islam, I'll be a good Muslim. Tonight I make the promise of making my commitment to you. And subhanAllah, I got into bed and I fell fast asleep. It's like I felt the peace come in my heart. I went to sleep. I woke up very early and I went to the school to take my exam. On the